Hello everybody, we're in Belleville, it's Wednesday and we're going to be cooking spaghetti bolognese with you today. So in the kitchen today, I'm just going to turn you around. We've got Sophie helping us and we've got Johnny as well. And I'm just going to let Johnny take over now, okay?
So today we're cooking spaghetti bolognese. Just quickly run through the ingredients. So 500 grams of minced beef, 1 tablespoon of veg oil, 2 onions, 4 cloves of garlic, 2 tins of tomatoes. Today we've got 1 tin of tomatoes and a carton of passata. We'll talk a wee bit about that later. 2 stock cubes and a wee teaspoon of sugar that I've already dissolved. Turmeric, paprika, black pepper, dried bay leaf and a selection of optional veg, which we'll talk about how we're going to process that veg. So step 1 is finely dicing your onions, garlic and chopping your selection of veg. So we'll run over how to do that.
So this is part of our recipe box project, and we've picked spaghetti bolognese because it's a really family favourite recipe. Most people who eat meat enjoy it, and we certainly had a lot of great feedback last week from our recipe box participants. Everyone said that it was really enjoyable, there was no waste, everybody was happy to eat it all up, which is great to hear because that's one of the most important things about this. However, we all have mentioned several times already that red meat isn't great for us, and that we need to maybe reduce it in our diets. So Johnny's actually going to talk about that a wee bit today, and he's going to change the recipe slightly because, as you know, nobody here can follow a recipe ever, even when we've written them ourselves.
Yeah. So what I've done effectively today is the recipe calls for 500 grams of minced beef. I've used 200 and lots of extra veg. So, you know, I've got 3 peppers here, I've got 2 tubs of peppers here that were waste, I've mushrooms, I've a few shallots.
What about the lentils? Are we putting lentils on?
Yes, we are putting a cup of lentils through it. They're a good source of protein as well. Can be good for kind of, you know, mimicking.
That's just dried red lentils we've got there.
Yep,
I've made this before. I've used green lentils. I think I actually used a mix of green and red lentils.
Yep.
So obviously you can get your lentils dried and just cook them along with anything, or you can actually get tinned lentils, which maybe just make the process a wee bit easier. Hi Michelle!
No need to soak any lentils for this. So, onion has been topped, halved. You can see that you've got the root end there, which I'm going to leave on because that is what keeps it intact. Whilst you're dealing with waste veg and stuff, you might notice that bit's not too nice looking. That's fine, you know, we won't use that bit, but it is good for holding the onion together. So you can see these lines going down, so all you're really doing is following these lines, keeping the blade on that knuckle. Those fingers are behind, my thumb's right at the back supporting it, and you can see I'm not cutting right the way through, so that root holds it all together. That stays just like that. Then moving the other way, again same hand position, blade touching your knuckle, 1 in front, 2 behind, 2 behind, and just moving that away from yourself. If it ever gets too high and too awkward, you flip it, just shave a wee bit off, and back again, and then that's a nice fine dice onion.
Lovely.
And if you want it any finer, you just move your blade through it like that. But for this, something that cooks for at least an hour, you don't want your veg to be too small, because if it is, it could break down, could burn, could go bitter. So
we will be trying to stick to the half hour today, guys. We've done our usual Blue Peter. Here's one we prepared earlier, and so just in case anyone panicked there and thought that they were going to have to put up with us for the next hour.
Not today. Okay, so that's some onions there. So this is kind of a recipe as well, guys, that's, you know, a lot of prep. Have your prep done before. We're doing this today to show you like how things are cut and stuff, but you really want to be doing it in advance so it's all at your fingertips.
Yeah, so when you start cooking, you've got everything sitting in a wee bowl, just ready to go in.
So in with the onions. Spring onions, the tops were totally knackered, so they come off, but you know, these parts are perfectly usable. Because they're kind of big ones, I'm going to slice them down the middle. And just get them.
So can we get some comments from you guys? Is anybody a fan of spaghetti bolognese? Is anybody particularly not a fan?
Sophie, what about you?
I like spaghetti bolognese.
Like spaghetti bolognese? And when you eat it, is it like out of a jar sauce or is it homemade? Because both are good, you know. Homemade's a lot healthier obviously, but that's good.
So does everyone in the family enjoy it then? Is it a traditional recipe you use? Like everybody uses the same family recipe? Yeah. Because we've been talking a lot about sort of the vitamins and the minerals that are in our foods and how they make us feel and how they make us act. But there is sort of other kind of context that you can put around food, and one of those is sort of like memories and comfort and family time and things like that, you know. And regardless of what the food is or how healthy it is for you or not, you have this kind of feel-good factor from eating it. So that's one of the reasons that we picked this particular recipe.
Nice and homely.
Yeah, homely. So what about anybody else watching us? We've got quite a few people watching. Nobody commenting yet apart from dear Michelle. Who likes spaghetti bolognese? Personally, as I've mentioned, I think maybe a few times, being vegan, I have made a version of it, as I say, with the green lentils and things like that. But it's not something I would go out of my way to make because it's not something I feel like I miss out of my diet. Not something that was really in my diet. But so what is that you're chopping up there?
That's just a wee half of a homegrown chilli.
Is that the one that John brought you in this morning?
Yeah, courtesy of Papa John. So, a wee spicy bolognese today. Sophie, could you just do me a wee favour, read that recipe for me and just remind me what's going on. Step 1.
Hey Jess!
Skills, what's step 2?
To put oil in a saucepan, heat on a medium heat until warm, before adding mince.
Cool.
Start with a wooden spoon.
Cool,
So this is our recipe card here. As you can see, we've got all these lovely easy to follow instructions that we've sort of photographed ourselves and written ourselves. And
so Sophie wants to stick some oil in that pan just whilst I'm going over how to chop this veg. That would be great. So we'll get some courgettes, carrots,
hi Linda.
peppers. So
Yeah. So we've got Linda Bowie saying that she does enjoy a good spaghetti bolognese.
Good. Linda can let us know how she does hers as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's all sorts of little personal family kind of secrets that people use. Specific ingredients that they'll always put in because that's what their granny did, and it just makes it like they know how they like it.
So that's just courgette that I just topped and tailed, cut in half. And you can see it looks like that there. And then I'm just going through, same deal as before, just a rotten motion.
Jess says her spaghetti bolognese has loads of red wine in it. Ours would if we were allowed to, Jess, but
Don't worry, I'm going to get onto that deglazing, and I've got vinegar, Jess. I've got vinegar to use instead of red wine.
And that's Julie just saying it was great to see us this morning.
It was great to see Julie as well.
It really was. So yeah, things have changed around Belleville. You know, we stopped doing our delivery service now, so we had this team of guys who were in here day in, day out. And that's kind of stopped now, and it's all changed again. So everyone's just in that little kind of flux point, really. And we're all missing each other and just trying to find our routines again. So as you can see, we've got quite a lot of veg that we're adding into our, you know, because you're using the carrots, I'm just going to make a comment about the vegan version. So usually if I'm making a vegan meal like a chili or a bolognese or something, I'll use carrot as a base, and I would quite often grate that. However, due to sheer laziness, one day I discovered that if you put the carrot through a food processor, what you actually end up with is like a kind of, the texture is more mincy, if you will, and if it's the texture that you're trying to replace, as opposed to the taste somewhat, then you can prepare your carrots in that way. And along with the lentils, that gives you quite a mince-like texture, which makes it more believable to the palate. Okay, so I'll just give you back to Johnny now.
Yeah, so just going to be chopping these carrots. It might be worth mentioning that this is the veg that's going to take the longest to cook, so you might want to chop it the smallest, or as Sally was just saying, you know, food processors, graters, etc. So, safe way to do it, top and tails, take the tops and the bottoms off, then I cut it into manageable sizes so you can see it's like not full big carrots, because I'm going to put it on a flat end, cut it through the middle, and you make wee matchstick, that, and then the other way, so you get these nice wee squares, wee shapes, like that. I actually cut myself, well I didn't cut myself, I nearly cut myself off camera just an hour ago, so we're being very careful. And time permitting, we'll use these carrots for something else. Garlic, so easiest way to do it, to peel it, to chop it, get a knife, press down.
I like that noise it makes when it crunches it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, by the time you peel it, the garlic's pretty misshapen, but that's okay, because we're going to
Belinda's saying there that she makes it from scratch all the time and she adds loads and loads of veg, which is great. Maybe next time you make it, you'll add a handful of lentils, because there is actually a health benefit to that, which we'll go through obviously in a minute.
Yeah.
Michelle's saying great knife skills and you're terrifying her. He almost cut himself earlier. You'll notice he doesn't let me near the knives.
Wee thing that you can try as well, let us know if anybody's going to try and make us in the comments. Most recipes will tell you to put your garlic in at the start, but I think traditionally a lot of things actually put their garlic right in at the end. So experiment with that, let me know what you think. I'm going to put it in at the start today, but the one that you eat, I had half the garlic in at the start and half at the end. So when you put it in at the end, it's more of like straight garlic, like you can taste it, you know.
I think at this point it's really very, very clear that Johnny is not a vampire.
I'm not.
No. I think we've firmly established that. We can now remove that from the collective anxiety issues. He's not a vampire.
Depends who you ask. There. So again, and I'm kind of just rough chopping it. You know, I'm not mincing it. I'm not worrying, being too precious about how small it's going to be, because if you cut that too small and you leave it cooking for an hour or longer, it could go bitter. So we don't really want that. So in there we've got onions, garlic, chilli, spring onion.
So that was just, you separated the veg that you're going to start cooking from the very start and things that you're going to put in later. Here
we've got the mince, lean steak mince, 250 grams. So when you think about 250 grams of this mince, how much did this cost? Can you see a price?
Oh, I think it was like £2-3. £2-3.
So you think about something that's £2-3, you could go out and spend £6, feeding 4 people off 2 packs of this, or you could spend £2-3 in 1 pack, save so much money on the veg, so much better for you.
And lentils aren't expensive either if that's what you're going to replace it with.
Yeah. So you can either do your mince first, or And to do the mince first, then add your onions and garlic in, or you can do it all at the one time. I usually tend to do it all at the one stage. It's important to continuously stir this. Make sure that you're breaking apart all the mince so that you don't get big tough bits of like mince through your sauce. So just lots and lots of stirring. So if I could maybe get Sophie doing this whilst I go through the rest of the veg.
So that's Sophie's just going to try and get it all browned so that all the pink bits of mince are disappeared, and then it will be ready to add more into it. Okay.
It's really just the peppers, so I've just halved these down the middle. There's all different ways to do this, but I've just halved them down the middle. Then I'm just kind of cutting in like a wee arrow almost. Seeds out. Then it's just a matter of kind of trying to go around removing the white and the seeds. The seeds are perfectly edible if you don't get every single one and they end up in your food. It's no big panic, but if you just tap them, you'll take the seeds out.
Michelle's asking here, do you skim the mince? Sort of remove the fat off as it's cooking?
I would try and not. If you're using quite a cheap mince, I know that a lot of water comes out of that and it can be hard to remove it. So if it was a cheaper cut of mince and it let out a lot of water, I would skim it. But what I would much rather do is let all that water boil and then kind of let the mince almost like render in its own fat. You might find that the bottom of your pan looks really burnt. That's where the red wine comes in to deglaze it, because all that stuff at the bottom of the pan's flavour. So if I could help it, I wouldn't strain any liquid or fat off the mince, but I know that with some meats that you get, it can be really like it's swimming. You have to. So it's really making a call. You know, it's just. There you go. We'll do that. We'll do a wee yellow one, and then we'll call it quits for veg. In fact, no, do a green one because I've got all them yellow peppers to use.
So, did you want to speak about red sauces?
Yes, red sauces. So we'll talk here and more when we're over at the pot. But you know, this is spaghetti bolognese. It's in a red sauce, and you know you kind of develop the sauce as you go. So, but there is ways to just make like a kind of base red sauce, which effectively this is what this is, right? So it's tomatoes, garlic, basil, oregano. So it's like a basic Italian style red sauce. So if you start thinking about that as a base, taking away a few things, adding a few things will give you all different things. So you know, you take away the basil, for example, say, and you keep the garlic, but you add, say, cumin and chilli. That'll give you like a base kind of Mexican chili con carne sauce. If you were to take the garlic, take out the basil and the oregano, replace it with certain things like tarragon, cumin, chili powder, turmeric, that'll give you more of a tikka, like an Indian kind of sauce. So the point being is that you can take a sauce like this and really transform it into whatever you want. Wee bit of research on Google will tell you, and it's quite interesting experimenting with all the different kind of flavours that you can get out of it, you know. Same with the tikka, with the chili powder, the garlic, the cumin and stuff like that. You stick some coconut milk or yogurt in it at the last minute, then it's more like a tikka masala. So various Indian dishes that you can take from a basic sauce recipe. So quite interesting.
Excellent.
Just to mention as well, that's just 2 beef stock cubes with a wee teaspoon of sugar that I've dissolved. So that's just stock there.
You doing your herbs or?
Yeah, top of herbs. So herbs, which I think are really what makes this dish. So pretty flowers from the marjoram and oregano plants, which are perfectly edible and we're going to be using. We've got leaves here, so you know we've got like marjoram, we've got something that's nearly went to seed.
I think that's. Oh, I think that possibly is one of the thymes that was outside. We had a few different types of thyme.
Good. We've got rosemary there. All these nice herbs that we've got. We've got basil, which is here, and this is just the stalks from all the herbs that came fresh from the garden, as this did. So I'll use these for making, funnily enough, stock, which we might do a video on if anybody's interested on how to make stocks. I'm right into it, so let me know.
Okay, let us know if you want to see that.
Might be worth mentioning as well that different herbs, you know, you get kind of soft herbs and you get hard herbs. So something like rosemary is really, really hardy. You can usually tell by the fact that, you know, the stalks are thick.
It's kind of woody.
Yeah, woody. If you leave a rosemary plant, it almost goes into a tree. Those types of herbs, because they're quite heavy and dense, they hold up really well to heat. Their flavour will retain through long and hard cooking processes. Something soft like this will not. Chances are what will happen is if you cook that out any longer than 10 minutes at a high heat, you won't get flavour from it, so basil goes in right at the end. Same as parsley, right at the end. Coriander, anything soft, right at the end. You can actually see how delicate it is. I just picked that off a stalk and you can see it's bruised.
Yeah.
See how it's going. Perfectly fine. But
somebody said yes to a stock video. Karen McDonald, please,
Cool.
yes please.
good stuff. So let's
You've
see
pleased
how
him now.
I'm getting on.
Good.
Right.
No, get into that one.
Oh,
Sorry. So you can see here, you know, you do still have wee bits of pink, which is perfectly normal. We are just wanting to get this all nice and fried off. So what Jess was mentioning about red wine, traditionally, yeah, in Bolognese you've got red wine, tastes great, lovely and sweet, helps with the sweetness. Also helps to deglaze, and what that means is just, you know, when you're cooking things, sometimes you can get stuff stuck to the bottom of the pot. You can sort of see it here. Chefs call it sediment or fond. See here, there's a lot of flavour in that, and red wine, anything with acid in it, can be really good at kind of dislodging that from the pan. We don't have red wine, so if I get enough sediment here, I'm going to use vinegar instead, just to release it, because we don't want to waste any flavour. I've also got this that I wanted to try or show you. Have sun-dried tomato puree, which I'd never saw or heard of until today. But it's really, really nice. It's like tomato puree, but it's not bitter. It's not as acidic, I should say. So and if anybody's used tomato puree before, they'll know that it's like a really, really dark, kind of deep red colour. So this is orange because it's sun-dried tomatoes, so it's really sweet.
smells good.
There we go. So what I'm going to do is just take this vinegar, and that just means it kind of just washes the pan. Doesn't smell too great for a minute or two, but that goes away. Like that. So I'm going to get all the rest of my veg in here.
Can I ask when we put the bay leaf in?
When do we put the bay leaf in? When the liquid and sauce and everything happens.
Cool.
So yeah, the bay leaf, that's quite an interesting one, because it doesn't provide much of a taste, well, it doesn't provide any taste actually, as we discovered. But what it does do, it allows your body to digest fat better.
Pretty much.
That much. Like, which makes sense, because you know, virtually any traditional recipe for say stock, like a beef stock or a fish stock, chicken stock, all your stocks tend to include a bay leaf. So you know, maybe that's to help with digestion.
Well, we've got, what is it, caffeic acid, and I have no idea if I pronounced that properly, and rutin, which help your body sort of eliminate eliminate bad cholesterol rather out of your cardiovascular system. So it's good for your heart, and it just helps your stomach to break down certain foods easier. So yeah, always stick a bay leaf in your stock.
Yep. Always remember to remove it and don't eat it because they're toxic, aren't they?
No, they're okay.
They're not toxic.
Yeah.
I thought they were
I don't
poisonous.
know if I don't know if anybody remembers watching one of Laura's videos a few weeks ago. She was talking about the bay laurel we've got along Serpentine Walk, which is certainly poisonous and releases cyanide. Bay laurel. Yes, bay laurel. And we've got the little bay tree, which is a relative of that. However, the leaves are edible. And actually, if you are used to picking bay leaves, when they're mature, they're already quite a solid, tough leaf. And to dry them, I just leave them on just a bit of a tray basically, and put them above my fridge and just leave them and ignore them for weeks.
We've got lentils coming on.
Alright, sorry.
Alright.
Well, we should probably mention that the lentils as well. So one of the things we say about red meat is that it's really high in sort of bad fats for us, basically. Saturated fats, and it can affect our cholesterol, our blood cholesterol, and be bad for our heart health. And one of the things that lentils is good for is lowering your cholesterol, and therefore we figure we've got a fairly balanced meal here.
Yeah, I'd say it's an all-rounder. You're going to get your carbohydrates as well from the pasta. So,
excellent.
You know, it's an all-rounder. Might be worth mentioning as well, lentils absorb a lot of water, so although the recipe only calls for 200 ml of stock, I've used, is it 200 ml on the recipe?
I think, can you check something?
You can tell I don't follow recipes very often.
Now I'm telling you that, red meat's not great for you. However, it does have a lot of protein in it, a lot of iron, there's B12 in it, which is something I don't get. So what we're not trying to do is put you off it and tell you it's terrible for you and it's really bad for your health. What we are trying to do is encourage you to reduce the level of it in your diet for your own health, and there's also environmental reasons behind that. But I will go back to that in a wee minute because I think Johnny is going to put the stock in.
Yeah, so at this stage I would probably add my spices actually. So the recipe might not tell you to do this exactly the way I'm doing it, but guidelines. I prefer to kind of cook spices out in the pan before there's liquid, because there's less chance that your product comes out powdery, I find. Also helps to kind of wake the spices up, as they say, and I get some cooking. Like that. Yeah, so I've just, it's actually 500 ml of water that the recipe calls for, which I think I've actually got less than that here, but because lentils absorb so much liquid, just keep an eye on it, and if you feel that you need to add more liquid, add more liquid. This is the passata that I'm using because I ran out of tins of tomatoes. It's actually perfect for a bolognese, because if we, we say Italian tomato passata, and see the Italian flag there, and your ingredients is sieved tomatoes with basil, so it's perfect for what we are doing, because we're adding basil in anyway. There we go, that's in.
Yeah, it certainly looks like it would need just a wee bit more liquid to kind of cook off.
Definitely. So yeah, at that stage, we'll get a wee bit more liquid in. a good way of kind of judging, you know, how much, you might be asking yourself the question, how much liquid do I put in? If the recipe tells me to put 500 mils, and if he's telling me to put more in, blah blah blah, like, you know, just think about how long it's going to actually cook for. So if you want to leave this on a low heat for like an hour or two, you know, you're going to need liquid to compensate for all the cooking, you know. But at that stage, I would say that that's alright. Let's put it down.
Okay. So I think we're kind of coming to the stage where we're going to be looking at our Blue Peter type one. So I am just going to ask Sophie to get me the spaghetti that we've pre-cooked as well out of the oven, and this is just a really easy way to reheat spaghetti or to keep it fresh. So what we've done is, sorry, I'm going to drop it. What we've done is we've cooked it off already, and Jonathan is putting a wee bit of olive oil through it so that it doesn't stick together. And it's, well, sorry, it was drained first and the olive oil added, and it's just been kept in the fridge. And all we've got here is water that is just off the boil, effectively. And all I'm going to do is just put that in there and let it sit just for a few minutes, warm through, and that will bring it back up to temperature, ready to serve our Blue Peter version. Okay.
So I think we've all done that at one stage or another, you know. Cooling it and oiling it is a really, really good way of stopping it from sticking. I mean, I've done it, I've cooked pasta, put it in a container, put it in the fridge, and it's all sticks together, and it's all horrible, it's not very nice. So this is just refreshing it, you know, just, it's been oiled, it's been cooled, it's been oiled so it doesn't stick, and within a matter of, what, 20 seconds, 20-30 seconds?
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be heated.
Wouldn't leave it for any more than a few minutes, because then it's going to start cooking it more, which is already cooked, so we don't want that.
Yeah.
Michelle's asking, how will the lentils cook? Do you mean sort of how will they turn out, or, you know, like how long do they take? I would prefer to cook them, my lentils, no more than about 40 minutes, because they will start to lose their bite after that.
That depends on how you like your lentils. So as Sally was just saying, you know, but eventually they will completely break down and they'll almost become more a part of your sauce. Whereas if you cook them for half an hour to 40 minutes, they'll still have a bite, they'll still have texture. Maybe if you're trying to imitate meat, I
would try, yeah, to use them as texture. I would cook them as.
Yeah, but you know, if you wanted to say use them as more of a thickening agent, as Sue was just telling me this morning, she says when I make spaghetti it always turns out too watery, I was like, lentils, the starch, and it'll just thicken things, you know. And
like we've already explained to you, it just makes your recipe healthier. So, you know, even without taking any of that meat out, adding a handful of lentils in just helps you counteract that kind of extra cholesterol, and allows you to get all the goodness out of what you're eating, without sort of...
Right, so let's have a look at the Blue Peter one then.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so that's it all cooked. It's been on a low heat, and you can see it's all come together.
Yeah, so
there's your bay leaf.
There's the bay leaf. That helps you digest all that fat in the mince.
Excellent.
Which we're going to just take right out.
Can I just point out that these little bay leaves they were on my mother's tree in the garden. Bay trees go great in our country, you could all have one, and they are so easy to dry, you just completely forget about them. Just lay them on a tray. I just put them on top of my fridge and I leave them there for weeks until they're dry.
We have Sophie straining the pasta just now, so we're just about ready to plate up. But if we look at this, you know, you can see the lentils are still present. There is still a bite to them. You can see them. You know, you can you're eating them. You can kind of tell that you're eating lentils. But some of them have broke down a wee bit and added actually a really nice finish on the sauce.
You can see how much more it just, I don't know what would the word to describe it. It comes together. You put that there, and then I'll just take it over, and you can see this kind of uncooked texture there. Okay. Yeah. Jess saying it looks lovely.
Thank you, Jess. Oh, but let's and for everybody else. So some people might say that that's burnt, arguably it is. Some people would say that it's fond or sediment, or, and you know, if you had that at the beginning, that would be where your it's not really coming off, but a wee bit of red wine or something would really help to take that off and to keep that flavour in the pot. So right, cool. So got pasta.
So we're getting to tasting stages now.
Yep. Right, so plating up, we've got a pasta here, we've got a Bolognese here. That.
So in case anybody's confused, something went wrong with our last live video, and we just quickly started a new one because we're only going to do another couple of minutes here, guys. Really just having a taste of this mince and lentil bolognese that we've made here. And it would be really easy to make that a vegan meal. Just a wee bit more lentils, obviously no mince. Yeah. There's nothing else in it, is there? There's no...
Nothing else in it.
Nothing else that's not vegan.
As a wee alternative to chopping basil and actually putting it through the sauce.
And just serve it.
Yeah, you can just tear it.
That's quite pretty.
Couple of wee leaves on there.
I'm just going to, while Johnny's preparing that, I'm just going to tell you guys. On Monday, we will be doing a live on preserving. So we'll be making some jams, and if anybody's interested in that, you can join us. We are hoping to do a little giveaway as well. So we've got some empty jam jars that we'll be giving away to you to encourage you to go out and get your own fruit and make your own jam, and you can let us know how that gets on. So to enter the competition, you will need to be watching us live at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and everybody who comments, their names will be put into a prize draw. Okay, so hopefully you'll all come and join us for that. Now I'm going to give you back to the guys because they're just about to try this delicious looking lunch. Okay.
That's good. So good with lentils.
And how does it compare taste-wise to a fully minced bolognese? Like your family recipe, Sophie?
Yes.
Thanks, Graham.
Just, I really taste the difference.
Yeah? Well, there you go. You know, why not make it healthier if you can get away with it without tasting the difference?
Definitely.
I don't notice a difference. What I can tell you though is like, what I can tell you is that I tasted this from the pot because that was the Blue Peter one, you know, we'd made it before and I had a wee taste. This is absolutely the type of thing, the longer you leave it on, the better it'll taste.
Yeah, so it matures. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be a wee idea, you know, if you've got that 500 mils of liquid, you're planning on cooking it over an hour. If you've got something to do, you could maybe use a litre, 0.2 of liquid and leave it on for 2.5 to 3 hours on a lower heat. Let it cook for longer because I think it genuinely tastes better. It
would make a good slow cooker recipe then, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet Kira makes this in her slow cooker. Excellent. Right. Just one more thing before we go. So as I say, on Monday we're doing the preserving workshop. Next Wednesday we will be doing fish pie. I hope I've got that right. Which hasn't been as popular, but I think people who like that kind of thing really like it. So hopefully you'll all join us for that as well. And I'm just going to show you what we've got in the oven at the moment because we've just been playing around. And so we're doing some herb drying in the oven, and we've got some also hanging up drying. There's my sage as well. So we're planning on doing another herb drying workshop, and we might be looking at making our own teas and things like that. So I just wanted to show you what we were up to at the moment, and as you can imagine, when you open the oven up you get this absolutely amazing smell. So that's mint in there. In here I've got sage, I've got lemon balm, I've got thyme, and I think I've got some marjoram as well. So now that we're going to hang up on you, we're just going to go and see what's happening with our herbs, okay? So thank you everybody for joining us. Sorry about that interruption in the middle. If you're watching this video and you haven't seen the first one, there is a first part to this video where we do the whole, you know, making the food and everything, and it's not just about them two eating it. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm going to turn you back to the guys so that they can wave goodbye to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys. See you Monday.